ORCID, let's talk about ORCID, which is this whole genome examination of the babies that you are creating in vitro so that you can, according to the founder who just posted, published in New York Times, posted this big Twitter thread that's totally gone viral, that she talks about how, her big quote is, sex is for fun, embryo screening is for babies. So her idea is have recreational sex. That's what sex is for, but sex isn't for babies. Because if you make babies with sex, you won't be able to screen them. You might get a dud. I mean, you might get a child who's stupid, or you might get a child that could possibly be at risk for cancer or heart disease or something, like humans have been all throughout history. And so she's like, don't take that risk. You want to be able to genetically screen your child. And you're not just talking about the routine pre-implantation genetic screening that happens at 75% of clinics in IVF today that kind of screens for things like chromosomal disorders. She's talking about like mapping the genes of every embryo to determine like, are they at risk for blind, the things she risks, early schizophrenia, blindness, early cancer, heart defects, right? Like really make sure you don't want to, really what she's saying is like, you don't want a defective product, do you? And, they talk about how you don't want a child that's born with the disease we could have prevented. So those are the words that they're using. And so it kind of conjures up these ideas for the reader of, well, I don't want a child born with the disease that could be prevented. But you're not talking about healing. You're not talking about seeing a child that has the possibility of developing cancer and then healing them. You're talking about creating 15 embryos, screening them, and eliminating any of the children that looks like they could be at risk for early cancer. This is not a healing technology. This is a eugenics technology. This isn't something where we are trying to rectify something that has gone wrong. It is something where we are eliminating the people that we believe to be wrong. Now, this is just another step in the IVF process because this is happening to a lesser degree pretty routinely in most IVF cycles. We already are eliminating children based on things that can be a little less specific, like sex or like some very egregious, obvious genetic problems. But she's talking about really getting into the weeds and in essence, specifying what kind of children you exactly want. So this should alarm all of us. Again, this is not a technology that is going to be healing children. It is a technology that allows you to specify exactly the kind of children that you want at the time that you want them, and discard the ones that don't meet your requirements. CRISPR is editing the genes of an embryo. So developing the embryo, allowing the embryo to develop, and then editing out the genes so that at least you could maybe consider to be some kind of reparative. But of course, once you tinker with some part of the gene, you don't know what other parts of the genetic code you're also going to be changing. And you're not going to know that. And if it's something terrible, well, guess what? You've just actually altered the gene pool for all of humanity if those children go on to reproduce. Now that genetic mutation alteration is going to be taken on throughout the lineage of that child. So CRISPR is different. It's gene editing. It's also designer babies. It's also very concerning. This is just whole cloth genetic screening and only allowing the desirable children to be born. So you've just mentioned two kind of terrible dystopic examples. Another one that I think that was alluded to in the article, I haven't had a chance to read yet, about the humanoids, is this, they're not really going to be human. So the one that I think that they're talking about there is, because if there's no embryos, what they're talking about is in vitro gametogenesis, not IVF, in vitro fertilization, but in vitro gametogenesis, where you're actually not creating a child using a sperm and an egg cell that's coming from a man and a woman. Now you're creating a gamete from some other part of the human cell, from a blood cell or from saliva or a hair follicle. And now you're creating probably like an egg cell from somebody's skin instead. Now, this would be really, really helpful for the fertility world because eggs are hard to get to. And it's very challenging for single men or double men or triple men who don't have an egg to provide, but really would like to have a biological connection to the child. So in a same-sex couple, a man can contribute the sperm and another man could contribute a saliva sample that they could develop a gamete from and then combine those two, and then two men could be the biological parents of the child. So in their world, they're like, well, this is great because this serves our needs. Of course, then the child truly is I mean, who knows whether or not these babies are even going to be able to survive? They've tried it successfully in mice. That's still a pretty big jump from mice to human.